Hello and welcome to our video series on the resurrection of Jesus. In today's segment, we're going to respond to a key objection skeptics often bring up against the resurrection. They admit that the resurrection is possible, but they say it would require extraordinary evidence to believe it. This objection seems reasonable until you ask them this question: what does extraordinary mean? Firstly, if it means beyond the natural, then the skeptic is asking the resurrection to be confirmed by another miracle. Now, how could that work? In order to believe in the first miracle, the resurrection of Jesus in this case, the skeptic would then need a second miracle to support it. He would then demand a third miracle to support the second, and this would go on up to infinity. So by this criterion, the skeptic would never believe in the resurrection even if it really happened. There is something wrong with the standard of proof that makes it impossible for you to believe what actually has occurred. Secondly, if extraordinary means repeatable as in a lab, then no event from history can be believed because historical events cannot be repeated. The believability of historical events can only be confirmed by looking at the quality of the eyewitness evidence and the nature of the forensic evidence in light of the principles of uniformity and causality. Thirdly, if extraordinary means more than usual, then that's exactly what we have to support the resurrection. We have more eyewitness documents and earlier eyewitness documents for the resurrection of Jesus than for anything else from the ancient world. Moreover, these documents include more historical details and figures that have been corroborated by more independent and external sources than anything else from the ancient world. And as we have just seen in the previous episodes, we also have more than usual circumstantial evidence supporting the resurrection of Jesus. Now, finally, the skeptic's presupposition can actually be challenged. We actually don't need extraordinary evidence to believe something. Good evidence is all you need to believe in something. Now, furthermore, skeptics don't demand extraordinary evidence for other extraordinary events from history. For example, few events from ancient history are more extraordinary than the accomplishments of Alexander the Great, who lived in the early 4th century BC. Despite living only 33 years, Alexander achieved unparalleled success. He conquered much of the civilized world at that particular time, from Greece all the way east to India and south to Egypt. Yet, how do we know this about Alexander the Great? We have no sources from his lifetime or soon after his death. And we have only fragments of 2 works from about 100 years after his death. The truth is, we base virtually everything we know about the extraordinary life of Alexander the Great from historians who wrote 300 to 500 years after his death. Now, in light of the robust evidence for the life of Christ, anyone who doubts Christ's historicity should also doubt the historicity of Alexander the Great. In fact, to be consistent, such a skeptic would have to doubt all of ancient history. Let's actually get to the heart of the matter. Why do skeptics demand extraordinary evidence for the life of Christ, but not the life of Alexander the Great? Because, as we saw in the previous episode, they are hung up on miracles again. Despite the fact that miracles are possible because God exists, and despite the fact that miracles were predicted and then witnessed, skeptics can't bear to admit that miracles have actually occurred. So they set the bar for believability too high, and so that it makes them unbelievable. It's as if some skeptics are saying, I won't believe in miracles because I haven't seen one. if the resurrected Jesus were to appear to me, then I would believe in him. Now, that would be extraordinary evidence. It certainly would be extraordinary, but is it really necessary? That's the question. Does Jesus have to appear to every person in the world to make his claims credible? Now, why would he? The fact is, we don't have to witness every event firsthand in order to believe the event actually occurred. In fact, it would be physically impossible to do so. We believe the testimony of others if they are trustworthy individuals, and especially if their testimony is corroborated by other information and data. This is exactly the case with the testimony of the New Testament writers. Furthermore, if God were too overt because of frequent miraculous displays, then he might in some cases infringe on our free will. If the purpose of this life is to allow us to freely make choices that will prepare us for eternity, then God will give us convincing evidence of his existence and purposes. Therefore, those who want to follow God can do so with confidence, and those who do not can suppress or even ignore the evidence and live as if he didn't exist at all. Now, in sum, does the resurrection of Jesus require extraordinary evidence for it to be believable? All it needs for us to believe in the resurrection is good evidence, and of that there is no shortage. As we have seen in the past several segments, the evidence for the resurrection is pretty strong and compelling. Jesus actually rose from the dead in history. Thank you so much for watching. If you do have questions or comments, please let them know. And if you have not subscribed to this channel, please do. God bless you.